Okay. All right, this way you can just go through.
Perfect.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for everyone who's in the room. We've got a few online as well, and this is being recorded. So this is the last of our instalments, I guess, from Linda Alkire. Linda leaves to go back to the US later this afternoon. And so this will be an interactive workshop. So do make sure you've got your either pen and paper handy or your notes, because she will be breaking to get you to do a little bit. So as I said to the people online, the camera on my laptop doesn't work. So, but you can hear Linda and you can see the slides. So I think that's that should work fine. Okay, so Linda is going to talk to us about finding the sweet spot of your research impact. So she's spoken to us through a number of sessions this week about this. And this is really for you to start writing some stuff down and finding that place where you really think that you can contribute. As you know, research impact's really important here at University of Canberra, and certainly in our faculty. It's all about making sure that we're actually making a difference and doing research that actually improves society and wellbeing for our stakeholders. So handing over to Linda.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Well, thank you everyone for being here. I know it's a very busy time for you with all the marking and wrapping up the semester. So I really appreciate the time that you made to attend these workshops. So as Rebecca mentioned, today we'll talk a little bit about research impact. And what I'm going to share today is a lot of it is based on my own kind of journey and what worked for me and understanding what impact is, and kind of trying to find the secret sweet spot for how to combine different ingredients to hopefully find that place within this research realm where you can actually make research impact. So to start off, let me just ask quickly, why do you think research impact is important? Sorry? For society. So hopefully give some insights for society. That's great. What else? Go ahead.
We are here to have.
Okay, so academics, it's kind of like part of what we do, right? It's part of our ethos as academics. Great. What else?
To reach the people that need it.
Okay, yeah. So there's need for it, right? So we're doing something that hopefully is needed in the society. Okay. Well, I'm a little bit more pragmatic, I guess. I agree with all these topics, but here is some interesting fact. How much is the annual investment in business research on average? What do you think? Like how much? Give me a number.
It's never defined where or what type of business research.
They're talking in general, like as an average.
Globally.
Globally.
Including R&D.
Yeah.
Huge.
4 billion. And building on that question, my next question is, on average, again, how much does a single academic article cost to produce?
Cost 20 on university.
Oh, yeah.
20,000.
100,000.
Anyone else?
500. That's salaries and salaries.
That's according to 2023.
One article.
So what do you think these numbers mean?
We need to be impacted.
Thank you, right? So yes, it's all great, society and social need and all of that stuff. But when you think about it, how much we are actually spending, whether it's our time, whether it's salaries, whether it's support staff, whether it's to have the lights on, right? All of that is actually averaging at around $500,000 for one article. However, the reality of this is what? Most of our work has very limited reading outside of academia. So yes, while I definitely agree with all the reasons that you said, I think from a dean's perspective and from the university perspective, this is becoming much more urgent to address. So having said that, let's move a little bit away from the money side of things. How many of you know this concept? Okay, who haven't heard of it before? Okay, so Ikigai is a concept that I thought would be really cool to use to make this analogy of how to find that research spot to hopefully make that impact. So Ikigai is a Japanese concept that combines the term Iki, which means alive or life, and Gai, which meaning benefit or worth. When combined, these terms mean that which gives your life worth, meaning, or purpose. And if you are interested to explore more, here's a very, very cool book that I highly recommend reading that talks a little bit about that. Now, they use it more for a life secret for a long and happy life. I'm going to use the same concept to show how can we find the research sweet spot. There's the combo of different things. It's not just what you do after the thing is published. It actually combines a number of components that are highly inspired from the Ikigai concept. So first and foremost, the motivation, right? What excites you or inspires you most about your research? Why does this issue matter personally to you? And these are some big questions that sometimes we don't think about when we are about to embark on a research project. Now, I'm going to talk through this Ikigai idea from my own experience and some of my own research. As mentioned in the first day when I did the first workshop, I was born in Ukraine. I was raised in Lebanon, and I was raised during the civil war in Lebanon. So it was a really very difficult time for people to kind of, there was a lot of broken service systems. There was a lot of issues in the country, especially in a country that 100% relies on tourism, and the service industry is the main, part of the GDP. So a lot of those early experiences are kind of influenced my interest in service systems that are focused on people's well-being and focusing on services that hopefully elevate the well-being of people. So I feel like a personal motivation for me in studying services in general has been from the background, but also the fact that a lot of services were broken and there was a lot of service systems that were not functioning properly that has created this motivation to explore services and further on figuring out the whole field of transformative service research, which I'll talk to you in a minute. The second question was the relevance, right? One of the questions we just asked is the cost of conducting research. That's a big relevance question too. But how does this research address pressing societal and academic needs? A lot of the things that we do sometimes is just because we are motivated doesn't mean that there is a relevance for this thing. So it could be something that really motivates you, but unfortunately, it's not relevant. It's not relevant to academics, nor it is relevant for practice. What potential impact could this work have on individual communities or industries? And that kind of asks us the question to think a little bit broader beyond the impact. Sometimes we think of impact as impact factor or number of citations, or we think about it from the perspective of just individuals. We don't think about the community. So kind of thinking wider about what kind of impact we're looking to on a bigger scale. And another thing about relevance is, why is it essential to focus on this topic now? Kind of like what I talked about in the journal talk about theoretical implication. Would it matter if this paper didn't never get published? Right? That's the question that the editors are asking themselves. Would it make any difference if this paper got published or not? Or is it just a space in a volume that I need to publish? Right? So how essential is this topic for what we're doing right now? That kind of answers this relevant question. From my personal research journey, I was extremely fortunate to have been at a time, started my PhD when the first article on transformative service research was published. And for those of you who don't know what transformative service research is, it started in 2013, right around the time when I started my PhD in 2014. It basically gave a different look at what service research are focused on. So for many, many years, since the service became a field in the early 1980s, the whole focus of service research was how can we manage services, how can we design services, how can we understand services, and kind of like the building blocks of what a service research field is. What TSR brought in, it brought in this idea that services should look beyond just satisfaction, loyalty, share of wallet, the typical concepts that service quality that we used to study. And we need to start looking at how services actually uplift changes and create improvements in the well-being of the people who are involved in the service, whether it's the consumers, the employees, families, communities, nations, collectives, and ecosystems. And for me, reading that first article in TSR in my first year of PhD was like an aha moment, because it combined my motivation for wanting to understand services and their impact on people's lives, but also the fact that it was relevant. And it continues to be relevant. So I built my whole career, the last 9 years, focusing on this field. And I'm super happy to see that it continues to be one of the top service topics. So for those of you who are in different fields, that might not be very relevant, but in service research, for instance, reading editorials that editors are writing, reading research priorities that groups are putting together. So the TSR field has been always a service research priority within the field of research that I'm doing. And this is a recent article that was looking at the hot topics in service research by Wetzel et al. And if you can see, diversity, equity, and inclusion is at number 2. Transformative service research is at number 3 as one of the topics that needs to be researched. If you look at the topics that kind of are fading out or fading away, you see topics like service internationalization, service channels, service quality, service relationships. Well, they're still relevant, but their influence has changed, right? Back in the day, they were much more popular. TSR was very limited, and now we're seeing more of a growth in that field. Again, that shows that this topic or this field is very relevant. There is a need for that research. And again, in your diverse, those of you who are not service scholars, I'm pretty sure there's some work that is setting the tone of what's exciting for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years. And within the last 9 to 10 years that I've been doing this work, the research themes have really been very diverse, again, within the TSR area. So we looked at work where we focus on the human experience, right? There's a lot of work on consumer experience, employee experience. So now we're trying to look at the field from a human experience. We're addressing social issues that we haven't addressed before in the service area. We're looking at different ways to design services in a way that innovative, that address that human experience. We're really adopting this interdisciplinary approach where we're bringing in social marketing, where we're bringing in positive psychology, where we're bringing in behavioral economics, different areas that weren't part of the day-to-day lexicon of service research. And we're focusing on collaboration and co-creation across different disciplines, across different authors. And I've been very fortunate, I'm not going to bore you with that, but within TSR, we've looked at different ways of doing TSR. So although that first paper was kind of instrumental in setting the field, we've looked at outcome-specific well-being research, interdisciplinary well-being research, context-specific, especially in the healthcare sector, crisis-specific, my work on the refugee area, segment-specific, actor-specific, like frontline employee well-being, region-specific. We've done a whole special issue in JSM when Rebecca was the editor on service research in Africa, technology and well-being, some of the work here like gamification, its impact on well-being of frontline employees, responsible AI research. So as you can see, the TSR field has really took off, and you can find your spot within these different categories, the way to still appeal to that relevance. For example, obviously technology is very relevant right now, but also crisis. When the whole war started in Ukraine and the refugee aspect, that was what pushed us to study refugee work. Context, healthcare has always been a hot topic. You can always find that. Something to work within TSR in the healthcare, multicultural, region-specific, right? There hasn't been any work to look at service research in Africa or service research in Latin America. And we know that the contexts of these specific areas are so rich that your typical service research probably wouldn't apply in here. And we've learned a lot, even from a theorizing perspective, from the various areas out there. So the relevance. The next question is strength. And I think this is a very, very important point. I was having a chat earlier with Ryan about that. You can't be everything on a research project, right? You can't hit all the marks. I mean, if you're a superhuman, good for you. I'm not, right? So finding the right, knowing what your strengths are and what you need help with, and who can bring that extra skills that you need. For instance, I have a bunch of projects right now where we need to rely on someone who's really like a modeler. They have really advanced knowledge of modeling and knowing how to analyze huge data sets of 20,000 data points and over 20 years. I don't have that skill set. But this is what the specific research that needs to go into a top journal is needed, for example. So realizing what your strength is versus what other strength we need to bring in. And your strength could be a variety of different things, right? What you need skills you have, or whatever you have a specific method you're good at. You're very good at a specific theory. You're awesome at writing and storytelling around a research project. You're the networker who can bring in the people in and have access to really cool data. So different people wear different hats in a research project, and we don't need to all be good at everything. Another one, how do your past experiences prepare you for this work? Especially for those of you who are maybe coming from a practice background or worked in a background that really would inform theory and development in that specific areas. What ability sets you apart in addressing this specific issue? Like you speak a different language that you might be wanting to research in that specific area. You know a specific network that can help you. So the strengths are very important. And again, I was trying to reflect on my own as I was preparing this. You probably recognize this from my first talk where I talked about balanced academic idea, is that how can we combine our understanding of service, through our research, and through our teaching. And I've always kind of wanted to be that balanced academic that can bring in insights from your research, insights from your service, and insights from your teaching to build the concept of a balanced academic. And building up on that, I mean, I'm talking to some of my colleagues, some of the things they tell me, like, for instance, the multidisciplinary expertise that we have in the field is definitely enriching what we do. My ability to connect internationally with scholars from around the world, right? And like one example is being here today, right? I personally think it's a strength, right? And I try to hopefully, build on that as a way to find co-authors, find access to data, be able to, collaborate internationally. Effective communication and networking is another essential skill to be had. Sometimes the ability to take a risk and getting out of, this what everyone else is doing. I want to do things differently. And having this orientation of service-oriented mindset, that sometimes you do things not because you're expecting something in return, right? And sometimes that's what we need to do in a research environment where things are not just one-on-one interactions, but you get something just because you have that mindset. And the last one is opportunity, right? What resources, external factors such as funding, collaboration, support this type of research that hopefully is relevant? You're motivated to do it, you have the right strength to do it, and you have the opportunity to do it. What are some of the gaps or emerging trends that needs that your research can address? That is another part of this opportunity set. And in my case, I want to mention one of the projects that I thought that was a great opportunity that we really jumped on board was the global refugee crisis. So one of the papers that I'm very, very proud of, it was the paper, the first paper that addressed the refugee crisis in service research. And we wrote it thinking that most likely no one's going to read it because no one cares, no one does this type of research. And it kind of set the tone for really opening up a lot of work and subgroups working within this area. So it started because the war of Ukraine, right? Before that, it was the war in the Middle East with the Syrian refugees, then the war in Ukraine. I personally have family in Ukraine that currently are refugees in various parts of the world. So really, I had the motivation. I thought it was relevant. We had the opportunity to collect really cool data from a refugee set. And we got a team together that was able to work together with different opportunities there and different sets of skills. So it was important, it was relevant, there was a motivation, and we got going on this. So we started with basic questions. How can we help those people? How to decrease their suffering and increase their well-being? And that was one of the service research priorities at that time, right? TSR work that is designed to increase people's well-being. And how can we create a launch pad that would encourage other refugee research projects? So we wanted this to be like a motivation for other people to move forward in this type of research. We didn't know much. We knew that the global refugee crisis is complex. We're not humanitarian researchers. We're not researchers that are studying refugees, and there's a lot of work out there by other areas that are doing this type of research. But what we knew that we have a really good understanding of service systems and how services work. And if you look at this whole crisis, it is a broken service system that needed to be fixed. So what we did, this was the first TSR publication wrote with Ray, was published in 2018. And it really opened up the door to a lot of work in this area. So what we did, we used key concepts from TSR. First, we laid the foundation that this was going to be studied within TSR. We talked about the importance of service design to understand this crisis, and how can we, use the concepts of service design to help elevate some of these issues. And we were calling for this transdisciplinary type of research for these questions. And from there, we took on and we wrote this paper in the Journal of Public Policy and Marketing, where we actually, without boring you much with the details, worked with 6 different cases from around the world. And our team was pretty big. We had 13 co-authors, and they were from all over the world as well. And we were able to collect data from Somalia, from Uganda, Colombia, Venezuela, Jordan, and Turkey. And each case study informed our understanding of the model that we ended up proposing in here, where instead of talking about customer experiences, we used the literature on experience that we know in service research to translate it into a refugee service experience. We said that the experience could be hostile or hospitable. It can focus on the suffering or the well-being. We also use terms from the service research, such as service journey. Because in service research, we map customer journey, we create personas, right? So we were like, we're going to use that, what we know from service research, to translate that into the refugee area. And that ended up being really a very influential paper that opened a lot of doors to make sure we create managerial implications, research agendas around it. And the paper was very, very well received. It was one of the top cited articles in the Journal of Public Policy for 2022. We were able also to translate it into a World Economic Forum article after that, kind of addressing the Ukrainian refugee crisis at that time. It also led to another research in JSR that published, actually received the Best Paper Award for that year, where we introduced the concept of transformative service initiatives. And it's all built on that refugee work that we were doing. So it was all built on a crisis that was happening, something we cared about. It was relevant, it was important, there was a motivation, and we were able to theorize around that topic and contribute to this transformative service research field. Without claiming that we are refugee research experts, we're service experts. So we're going to provide service answers to some of these questions. So this was the model we used. We created a journey, and we wanted to look at what happens during the alignment phase, which is known as the transformative service initiatives. I know not many of you are service scholars, so I'm not going to bore you much with that. But as I said, the paper was very well received. It received tons of awards. It was finalists for Best AMA paper. It was part of the Responsible Research Honor Roll. It received Best Paper Award. So really created a lot of impact, way more than we ever thought it would when we started this type of work. This is a follow-up article. So this is one of the latest we were doing in that field. And again, you will see that all of these are building on each other. So we created this space, and we were building one on top of each other. And this is one of the impact articles that we wrote for EJM. And there, the whole point basically was to use what we learned and translate it into measurable outcomes and what companies, not companies in this case, it was an NGO, can do with the data that we have. So we worked very closely with an NGO that focused on employee employment. And what we did, we found out what they used to measure to report social impact. And then we provided our TSI informed or research informed social impact measurements, right? So we realized, for example, that they never mentioned the impact on family level or on their community level or on societal level. So we came up with a whole toolkit of what needs to be done at every level of the measurement to capture that impact that they were disregarding in the prior work. So to put it all together, when you have the motivation, the relevance, the opportunity, and the strength, that's where the sweet spot is. And I wanted to create this specific graph to kind of like think a little bit about what happens if you have when you have the strength and you have the opportunity, the motivation, you may feel satisfied about your research, but it has no societal impact. So if you have this and this, but it doesn't have relevance, that's not enough because it doesn't have that impact. The other part, you might have the motivation and the relevance, you may feel fulfilled because you feel like you're doing something important, but you lack the resources to carry it. And we find sometimes that, well, the type of research that I'm excited about, it's awesome, but I don't know the resources, I don't have the resources. Another problem could be you're motivated and it is relevant. You might be excited about it, but uncertain about whether you can achieve your ambitions just because you don't have the opportunity maybe to go after this type of research or the strength, the knowledge to go after this type of research. And finally, you may feel comfortable about your research, but unfulfilled. And that happens a lot where you have all these three elements maybe, but you don't have the motivation. It's not something you care about. It's not something that keeps you up at night, right? And unfortunately, sometimes we find ourselves stuck in these type of projects that really don't speak to us on a personal level. And they're really a waste of energy and time and what leads to a lot of burnout if you're not really motivated about what you do. So I wanted to put this thing together to kind of reflect of, you could have some elements, but we kind of need all elements together to make it really worthwhile. And again, there's tons of challenges. I by no means saying that doing a type of social impact research is easy. It is very challenging. We don't know where to start. This is not something I thought about before. It obviously takes a lot of time, especially to get to the point where you're making an impact. There's so many obstacles. Now, you guys are fortunate to be in a school that really values this. It's the ethos and the positioning of your school, right? The impact and the work with the government and for society. Some schools are not like that. I faced a lot of trouble at the beginning of my career where I was told, well, this is not business research. You're in a business school, you're not doing business research. Now, it helped me that the field took off and it's really well known and well established. But at the beginning, when I was doing my talks as a PhD student, everyone was like, what is this? I was actually once told by a senior service scholar, by the way, that are you going to change the world?
Wow.
As a PhD student, I'm presenting. I'm like, yes. It was in Australia, by the way, so that. But imagine, right, if I changed my direction and felt like this is not what I should be doing. You also get a lot of questioning about the rigor, right? That's a big one. So you still need to show that the method was done properly, that there's proper conceptualization. There's this idea of communal protectionism. Well, this is not how we used to do it, right? This is not how we do things. You need to fit the parameters of what good research is. Sometimes it's really hard to find the people that would want to work with you, stakeholder alignment, whether it's your co-authors, your people in the department, the people you're trying to help. There's a lot of ethical questions as well that could be involved in this, and measuring impact and scaling that insight is much bigger. However, not everything is negative. I do believe there is more, the future is bright because we're seeing across various fields a call for more social impact type of research. Obviously, we have Rebecca's journal, right? We're a space for social impact research now. Responsible research in business and management as a field started to kind of call for more responsible research. By the way, if you don't know this, highly encourage you to check their website. They post all the articles across the fields, by the way, whether you're in marketing, finance, accounting, whatever you're doing. They have a whole area where they post updates, the latest papers that they deem to be having an impact on society. The transformative consumer area is awesome as well. They have a great website with a lot of resources. If you're in service, you probably know about Circle Lab. Again, more and more different areas and fields are helping us kind of help support why this type of research is needed. So some of the lessons I learned doing this, you want to build your personal brand as a researcher. I was very fortunate to have had the opportunity to do TSR work from the get-go. Find the people who are really rooting for you in the same area, people who are excited about the same thing. Focus on serve and service, and kind of that goes back to my point earlier about it's not about one-on-one, you do something, you get something in return. It's about the mindset. A lot of these cool topics really require innovative methodologies and innovative ways of doing things. And personally, I find that very exciting because you're going away from the traditional methods and you're coming up with new ways of doing things. You're reaching wider audiences doing research with impact, whether it's funding, participants, different type of impact, and you're exploring non-traditional metrics of success. So the success is measured differently. It's not measured by which journal list this is on, what's the impact factor. There are other stories that you can create around the impact you're making with this type of research. And now to the workshop. So I worked with Rebecca a little bit to understand what the priorities of your school are. So obviously this is not mine, teacher. This was shared to kind of highlight that these are the key topics within your school right now: effective government, social service design, democratic innovation and renewal, behavioral insights and technology, sustainable environment and communities. And what I thought would be cool little exercise for us to start thinking about, if we can apply the sweet spot for components to address some of these general areas. So basically the idea is in your smaller group, we're not a big audience here, we can combine as well. I think we can get maybe into 2 groups. Sorry,
Do we need paper? Does anyone want some paper? I'll go grab some. Or do you want to do this on your computers?
I'll do the paper. I'll go back to paper.
Good. Okay.
yeah, so we can maybe get into 2 groups if you'd like to kind of divide yourself into 2 groups. And we can think about what inspires your group the most out of these. What do you think some of the strengths each one of you can bring to this team? Why this work is important, relevance, and what opportunities you can find to hopefully support this type of research. And I'm not gonna force you to do this type of research, it's just a brainstorming exercise. How can we think about research questions by combining these 4 components? And hopefully you can discuss the ideas with each other. It would be really cool if at the end can have like a briefing of a few minutes about what each group came up with. And to keep it simple, I've put this one thing again with the key question about each one of them. How does that sound? Sounds good?
So how do you want them to get into groups? People they
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe by area a little bit. Maybe it will make it easier, but I don't know people's background. So by area, or if you don't want to do by area, we can do random, totally fine.
And anyone online, they can do it individually.
Yes, think about an individual question that you might want to explore, combining these 4 components.
But which of the priorities?
Whichever you want. I just included them. Oh, I can go back.
You want to know which of those?
Which one speaks to you, or even like which, I mean, as long as your question fits any of these, so they're broad enough, hopefully, so everyone can find something they are excited about. But this is just as a very general guideline. It doesn't have to be specific.
Pause the recording.
Yep.
All right. So how long do you want them to do this for?
So maybe how long is the session? So we have what, 20 more minutes? So maybe we do 15 minutes?
Mhm.
And then we'll do 5 minutes at the end for a quick wrap up.
It doesn't have a pause. I'll just leave it go. That's fine.
I just got it. I think.
Yeah. Okay, so if everyone online, you just do your own.
Sorry. Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's forward.
Yeah.
That. All right. Sorry.
Oh, there are three people and you're both.
Yeah.
And then maybe each team will just give a 2-minute briefing of what they discussed. I know it's really a big exercise, but just to get us thinking about the 4 components.
Maybe. Going to pick up a topic.
Yes, that the topic should have hopefully answer. Yes, but hopefully it will fall into one of these 5 categories. But also, you gotta think of the topic in a way that addresses these 4 points. So you gotta find a topic that appeals to the team. And what can each one of the
So
teams?
we need to find the commonality because I suppose the motivation is.
Sure, sure.
So then you should.
Again, you just, it could be a general area. It doesn't have to be very specific.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
okay,
so to
this. So let's
Out of
go to this
the-
one.
priorities.
Just finding the motivation.
Recent priorities.
Start. How about starting from.
They're all the way.
So for the business slide,
Oh, there's like technology, there's like, if you go to.
starts inside, go to the business slide. Can I go back to the business slide, please?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, so service.
I'll just take a
Service
photo.
design. I will take the society's.
But yeah, it's, okay, so it's.
Yeah.
That's one, social service design, democratic innovation.
I'm gonna get a Yeah, then we start from the side.
Well, I have a better answer for you. You don't need to use mine. Here's the article for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's where the dollars spent. That's where they are there. Yeah, the cost of producing a business. What means we're not doing. That's what it means.
I added those in the morning because I saw
I
that
think it's really good.
and I thought it kind of gives a wake up call. You like,
Let's not put that out actually. What percentage is recent? Because technology, us, you know, if I took, I don't know,
Democratic
probably
innovation.
30% of the salary, but it's not just articles, it's also funding. So I have to figure out how to up. How will you show that 30%?
Yeah, design survey.
Saying like 50% of our salary is dedicated to research.
well, in the article, they talk about how like in the research done, they're kind of making the
Yeah. So it's from the
So I'll just say, well, let's just go.
Yeah.
So.
An area that.
Half the research allocations funding, as applications in the other, it's group, but it's
Relevance, opportunities.
or 2 key outputs. And then I can easily calculate 15% of. Yeah, so I can put that out, so it's so much for spending.
So it's like.
This is like a positive thing for us. So we've got. I've done the articles of here, paper here. So, yeah, then I can, you know, what we want to do is reduce the cost
I mean,
per article. That's an area of that. Here's how much I'm spending on it. So it's fairly clearly given percentage rise.
Yeah, so I'm gonna list it out. I'm gonna scale it like that. So I think it's what I say. And just, we want to get better. That gives us time. Is basically related to
Looking at
they
it
do that, and it's not too much like Facebook interview, and then getting the right?
With solutions.
And that's we've been here.
So,
Don't forget it, what these things just want cost, you know, what's cost of doing.
and they would take control of them.
Yeah.
So it actually, right? So what you're starting to see now is a new technology where.
No, that's actually, that's.
So
that's
saying that
very
more
important.
Back to the actual thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's. Still to do it.
So,
Okay,
so,
Yeah.
Exercise.
so the opportunity is actually use technology
Yeah.
to avoid pitfalls that are.
So where's the you know, and so, okay, so what? Cost of-
Okay, for the each of these individuals, the experience with the soldering right now.
But also, that's just, you know, ones.
So is this?
Right, right.
That's return on investment.
Right.
Is out where area same. Yeah.
It's wonderful, like, it's about 5% for. You're not gonna. Big word about. I'm hearing right now.
And there's a lot Yeah, it's like.
Our background is. So what, if you guys are the things, it's actually not Australia. Or like. Well, that could be, and we sort of boosting them around that. Second, so generation, so that I believe would.
And the reason to speak in parts is a strategy. It's gotta be creative. So there's a big difference.
Yeah, so, you know, it's saying when you, it's more about foundational basic discovery. And it's not our universities. So it's not to say don't do it. That's not what's allocating for the money.
Larger than I was, so it's,
You know, and so.
similar to
We've
Linda.
got to see money in the areas.
Society motion.
Recent areas, it's outside those recent side areas. Well, you can build the customer We also mapped it against federal applications last year, everyone has one. So make sure that technology. It looks like, it's not fiction.
For me, the focus on experience, but and then we just starting nicely. Yeah. Resilience, for example. Emphasize regarding or regard for every performance. So, for example, again, it's just an example that technologies kind of for example, it's the spiritual environment, people that can show their lives and experiences being virtually to others, for example, the refugee. So for instance, yes, what religion they practice and cultural problems or differences, they some of them. What lessons we can get and lead up. So these are the ideas that I for example,
Like the skill set.
yes.
Yeah, so looking at skill set.
Reality. This is just one example.
So
Again,
rather
going
than
back
sort
to
of
this
something where you're
again.
it actually kind of powerful.
Well, the vulnerable individualism, so how to involve them, helping them to show others what they're doing. So we have also the hierarchy of the mentors. There's no that they will always ask you different.
Yeah. They never asked me how to balance work life. Yeah,
Okay, so it's moving down to problems. And then after that is legal and financial. Yeah, the background using. Exactly.
Provide support. That's very. Yes.
Yes, and so then, and now I think that, when I finish this one, and then I go back and perfectly, fixing how, teaching and something. So, just in terms of, it's not triple sun, and the, our topic is, arguments with the perfect.
Yes, yeah, I wasn't sure what it
Not working, like, in
to be trained to train others. The survivors and so
Just treat it as yeah, because it might be great, but in it's very tough. So I think maybe just raise this question in terms of who would we connect with to fund our research.
Okay.
So it's great to say we have opportunity, but we got to say who values them, we got to fund those research. So not regret, not regret. So political license for government facilities. So there's the offering, empowerment, women, quality, legal, so this campaign. Otherwise, it's a back, like stop harder.
So coming back to that sweet spot.
The other one actually maybe also,
After that,
Yeah, I think.
just as an alternate, in like a lot of countries right now, they're really just grouping one community for discussion. Therefore, to train a whole group. Yeah. Thanks.
That's what I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have a limit. Because I don't wanna go there and they're like, really? I say, so it's my flight.
Yes.
I'd rather go and explore.
So
So my flight is.
So we create the idea of
5:45, so technically, 5:45, 3:45,
and we are
that's 2 hours.
8 hours.
3 hours. 3 hours, yeah. Okay, so that's like 5:45.
No, that's
So
not.
actually it's not, it's like,
This is the,
it's like a half hour.
Yes, like you have,
Yeah.
it's the look.
Give about 20 reviews. I'll be going right to.
No, that's.
Yeah, so,
That's good. And then, yeah, so I'll pass by you.
yes.
Why I do like is where. Yes, you have a meeting at 2. Yeah. I'll just take 10 minutes. Yeah, that's. Yeah, so I'll finish my meeting with the.
Yeah.
Not great.
So.
Sorry that I'm making.
Well,
I mean. So you do not know what's going on.
Okay, so I think it's very fun.
So the team is good. They need it.
You know,
It's fine.
Yeah, it's
very
just serious other things, because what I do is what I'll say. It's like you all the research skills, great. But you guys, do we have some to,
But you see what happens now, everyone wants to look at it.
yes. So we can do quantitative research. Politics, that's great, so what we're able to research.
Because these people are watching us.
Do we have access to abilities? Great, language, right, well,
Well, yeah.
well, right, that's great.
I can't go into that. I don't really.
Yeah, I want this.
Yeah, yes, they don't really. So eventually, I can know other people. No.
We don't have that much access.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading yesterday. It looked like it's
Okay, everybody, I know it's a short time, but hopefully you were able to come up with something. Like at least a conversation starter, something you might want to think about, so, okay, so who'd like to go first?
Yeah, I'll have to speak on that. Do you want it?
Go ahead.
Okay, we are actually getting excited.
Good.
We did not expect that. And all of us is, so what I summarize is that all of us are professional, is not my own opinion. So we pick social service design.
Okay.
That one in the previous slide, and then that will lead us to the government side. And then the topic is women empowerment who are in professional services.
Okay.
That's our motivation, and somehow we are from different discipline.
Yes.
So, but with the one thing we all are in common is the motivation about the women empowerment.
Good.
Who are in professional services. Now, the opportunity is that when we say the vulnerability of the professional women,
Yeah.
it is a bit less research area, because when we say the word vulnerable, all of a sudden it came to our mind the image is that about women who are in home, women who don't have access to the fund, etc. But professional women who have moderate kind of salary, they can also be vulnerable, but nobody is talking about that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we did have a good discussion in last 10-15 minutes, and then the summary is that sometimes we have pay gaps, sometimes we have less access to the promotion, when it's more like within the men, and like work-life balance. Some of us have kids and it's hard. And then we actually thinking about government. What was the thing Ryan mentioned about the government NPO? Don't you like that one? The NPO.
Yeah, just that
The
different organizations recognize.
who can fund us?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
like that. So all of us contributed in this discussions about the government relevant body.
Yes.
NPOs, community organizations like small religious, community-based organizations, and World Bank and etc.
Yeah.
So and then comes the strength part. So the strength is that I have asked everyone, and we all are, some of us are qualitative, some are quantitative, and Ryan is also mixed method. So in terms of writing, research analysis, we don't have any issue.
Good.
In the strength, the problem is about access to the funding body.
Okay.
So we do have less access to the funding body, in particular if it is a big one like I have working. We don't have that networking.
Yeah.
So that is the thing that is set aside from this project.
Okay.
And anything else, we talk about relevance as well, is that we are trying to make some societal change, and it is about the microfinance technology limited resources. And
Right.
so we are just quickly pick up some of the areas that is relevant with our research. So for example, the people who are doing research and in practitioner, in
Yes.
particular the technology side, microfinance, limited resources, and people who are trying to do some societal change. I think that people are target audience.
Yeah.
For research project.
That would be pretty cool. And it's aligned with your schools.
And around the schools,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I'm pretty sure between the four of you, you probably would find more access or possibilities for access, or even time to do research for possible access, than if it was a one person going to try to find access to this problem, right? So hopefully even the access part of the research could be.
That is the thing we are concerned, otherwise we are fine. So for example, in terms of experience, I run two women project. The women employment of the multicultural women that is government funded. So she also worked with women, they are also passionate about women empowerment.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. That's the kind of,
Okay.
yeah.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And a couple of words, what do you think about the exercise?
It's excellent.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. As I said, we are getting excited.
Actually, it's a project, right? That'll be awesome. Great job, team. Thank you. Okay, team number two, 3 business academics and 1 law. And we were sort of thinking in terms of the social service impact. But we were also interested in sustainable communities and technology for good and so on. So I guess one of the things that we came up with was some sort of intervention, some kind of.
I have a pass here at 12.
Yeah, we're getting out in, wait, 1 second. Thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, so some kind of intervention to empower women suffering from some kind of abuse. And that would also include financial abuse, which brings in Bobby Tarzy's work as well as Janet's work. And so we're sort of bringing in
service design stuff, service systems, technology support, perhaps some kind of app or something to, and also empowering them, teaching them how to use it.
I love that both teams focus on women, which is pretty awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I hope you take these ideas forward and give you some inspiration for future work. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you.
Great. And for those online, thank you very much. And we've got to get out of the room because there is a class in here. So thank you all very much.